Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for staying and joining us for, On the Set with Heidi Schreck. I'm Susan Clement. I'm the producing artistic director of the Blue Barn and also directed the show. And again, thank you for staying. Standing to my left is Houston Walkinshaw, who is one of the founding members of the Blue Barn Theater, and he has a few things to say.
Thank you, Susan. So before we bring Heidi out, I thought it'd be a good idea to give you just a tiny bit of Blue Barn history that will put into a little bit of context how we got this play. Many years ago, when Blue Barn was very young and I had long hair, we were down on South 13th Street, and a high schooler named Kip Fagan came to see one of our shows. And he liked it, and he said he was directing Antigone at his high school, and would one of us come see it? So I did. I went to see it and was absolutely blown away. Concurrently, we were wanting to start a late-night theater series. Come on in. We were wanting to start a late-night theater series that would attract some younger audiences, but we were all so tired doing what we were doing that we didn't have the energy to do it. But I came back to the other Blue Barners and I said, I think I found the kid that can kick this off. His name's Kip Fagan. I just saw this show. So we invited Kip to do that. He got his friend and actor, Aaron, to do it, and they did Eric Bogosian's Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. And that kicked off a series called Round Midnight Theater that then evolved over 20 some odd years into different titles. Witching Hour, what was the other one?
Walk the Night.
Walk the Night. So 30 years ago, a young Kip Fagan started something that had some great longevity. He then moved off to Seattle, started a theater called the Printer's Devils Theater, where he met and worked with Heidi Schreck, who we will see in just a moment. He's since become a major director in New York, has directed all over the country. Fortunately, he can't be here with us tonight. But I thought
He's sick. He flew with Heidi and their twin girls, and he is sick. So we miss him tonight.
Yeah. Hopefully take him to the Omaha Dog Bar tomorrow. So I love that place. So anyway, I just thought it was important for you to know that a relationship that was forged 30 years ago has come full circle back, because this play has not been produced elsewhere. Susan was able to give Kip a call. Go ahead.
Right. I decided to, the play, I had read about it, I had heard about it. And so I emailed Kip and Heidi and said, is there any way that Blue Barn can do this? Beautiful, beautiful, important piece of work. And Heidi emailed back, and we went back and forth a few times, and she reached out to her producers and the rights people and gave us first rights to do this play. So we're really, really honored.
It's a big deal. Really big deal. So it's time to bring Heidi out, but before we do, just a couple things about her. She is an acclaimed playwright of this play, obviously. She's written others. She's also an actor. This play was nominated, or was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize Award. She was nominated for Best Actor, or Best Actress in a Play on Broadway. So this play was also nominated for Best Drama, or Best Play on Broadway. She's won a couple of Obie Awards. This lady is a major force. Yep. So,
without further ado, Heidi Schreck.
Have a seat on this side. I've got tissues. So this is how tonight's going to work. I have some questions for Heidi, and then in a little while we'll turn it over to you, because I'm sure you all would love to ask her something. But as I was preparing for this, I asked some friends to, contribute some questions that I wouldn't think of, and I got some back, but one that I got more than one question back. So this is clearly the most important question of the night, and we'll kick it off with that. You ready?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous now.
I'm praying to God the answer is a good one, a positive one.
We've been joking about how we're going to cry up here, so that's why the tissues are over there. Okay, sorry.
We're both criers.
Yeah, we are really, okay.
Here it goes. Do you still have George II's friend?
I absolutely do. He
Yes.
sits on my... he sits on the mantle of our fireplace. And I will be really honest with you, that is an alias.
Oh.
George II's friend is not his real name, but I didn't protect anyone else's identity except for...
Wow. How did your mom feel about that?
She had some thoughts about it, but she's actually very supportive of the play. But yeah, I changed his name because it felt weird to use his real name.
Can you share it now?
Sure. Only here in Omaha. Don't tell anyone else. I'm not sharing anyone else. So I have my original sock monkey that my grandma made. I called, and so it's friend.
Your writing got a lot better as you got older.
Thank you.
Okay, now you get this question a lot, but I know the audience will want to hear this. So can you just walk us through the genesis of this play, the time it took to create it, develop it, how it started, and blah, blah, blah?
Sure, I would be happy to. First of all, I developed it over a very long time, like over 10 years, but I was not working very diligently on it. It was just sort of like always there in the kind of margins of my brain, I guess. I knew I wanted to write about this contest. It was so formative for me as a girl. I knew I wanted to write about being a teenage girl, whatever that means. But I didn't. Yeah, I had a really vague idea about what I wanted to do, except I knew this contest was important to me and I wasn't sure why. So when I was living in New York, I would be asked to do like performance pieces out at PS 122 or other experimental theaters downtown. And the first thing I did was just do the recreation of the speech. And I thought, this is just a fun little 10-minute weird performance thing that my friends who are high can watch and like whatever. And then it just like it was just in my mind all the time. And then I just really very slowly started adding to it. And then I got a commission from this company called True Love Productions. And they were like, you can work on anything you want, do anything you want. And I was like, well, I have this weird piece but I don't really understand. And they were like, that's the kind of thing we want. Something you don't know what it's going to be. Whatever your weirdest thing idea is. And I was like, okay, I'll work on that. So they gave me kind of workshop space and time. And that's when I came up with the idea of like, well, what if I just recreated the whole contest and took the prompt of the contest seriously, which is, how do you like draw a personal connection between your own life and the Constitution? And really that's all I did was follow the prompt. I was like, what if I do that now in my 30s in a way I couldn't do when I was 15? And it really took me down some, we had dinner earlier and I was saying I just really didn't have any idea where it was headed, which you can probably tell from the structure of the play. I really didn't know where I was going, but I was like, well, I guess I'll start with my own body. So I'd had an abortion. I guess I should start with my family. It made me think of what my mom had gone through as a little girl. It made me think of my grandma. And at that point I was like, what laws in this country relate to domestic violence? What does the Supreme Court said about domestic violence? I guess I'll go look that up. Like it was really just following the question as far as I could take it. And I will be honest that it took me to some places that I was like, ugh, I don't want to talk about that. I've never talked about it openly and I don't want to talk about it now, but it kind of felt like that's what I decided the play was, so I had to fulfill it. And then it became what you saw. And for a long time, I was like very, unsure about the structure and like, I don't know what the structure of this is, except it's a recreation of the contest. It's answering this question, and it's 4 acts divided into the 4 parts of this amendment that I'm studying.
So can you give a couple examples of how it like specifically changed over time, adding these other characters,
Sure.
adding the debate?
Yeah, so I did a sort of full section that was just me and the Legionnaire. Oh yeah, also early on I was like, I don't want to tell these stories by myself on stage. I have this friend Denny Wallahan, he's a great actor. I'll put him on stage with me. Who should he be? I guess he'll be the Legionnaire. That seems the only obvious choice. So I really was just like, you stay there and listen to me talk. And I did a full night, a couple performance nights that went all the way through Section 3 of the amendment, which of course ended up dealing with Roe v. Wade. And then my friend Maria Stryer, who runs a theater in New York called Club Thumb, asked me to do a fuller run of the play. She had really liked it. And so I was like, I better finish the section. And that was Section 4, where I was like, okay, now I'm gonna have to talk about the domestic violence in my family, which I had to talk to my mom about and was like very confusing to me to think about talking about publicly. I talked to my aunt. And then I tried to pull out of the festival. I was like, actually, I don't want to do this. And she's like, well, your name's already in the program. So I was like, okay, I'll do it just at this downtown theater. And so that's when I did that. And then I was working with my great director, Oliver Butler. And I said, I need like an epilogue to this play that doesn't end. I was like, I don't feel like a hopeless person. And I feel like, whatever, we all wake up every day. And for the most part, if we're lucky, decide to keep going. And so I was like, what about this play can feel like, let's keep going. And I was like, maybe if like a real teenager showed up, like the version of myself that still exists in me, that has more hope than I am feeling currently right now, that would feel satisfying then, but I don't know what that person should do. And then we played with a lot of ideas. And then I was just like, well, since the play starts with my unabashed love for the Constitution as a 15-year-old, what if it ends with like questioning the very, questioning that as far as I can go. And so that's when the idea to like sort of debate my teenage self came into the play. Yeah.
So we were just up in the booth. You got to watch the end of this show.
I did.
And at the very end, it's the personal questions between the two performers, and I am curious how that came about, and I wonder what you thought of watching it tonight.
First of all, I loved watching it. I couldn't believe how amazing they were, and yeah, I was really moved by the debate. It felt like not watching my own words, and I was really moved by their honesty in the questions. Anyway, I thought it's a really great cast, and I felt really lucky to get to watch them. I guess I wanted after, a debate is, well, obviously there's so much debate going on in this country right now, and I felt like I wanted the play to end in a more personal way. And I also, because like somewhere in the middle of the process, I was also like, it's about a living document, so it should be a living play that has some amount of like, that is not fixed, that is not totally fixed. Like what about it could feel open and like pointing toward the future. And so having questions that were real, that the actors really answer in real time, felt exciting. And then having them just sit down as two human beings and be like, we're not going to debate the huge questions of our country, but actually just try to get to know one another a little better, felt satisfying. And maybe like it'd be helpful for all of us right now. Yeah.
I love that part. The night I saw it, and then tonight, it's so personal and revealing and funny.
Yeah, it's always surprising and funny.
I have no idea what the questions be. So you and I have something in common other than knowing Kip Fagan and having dinner tonight. I love listening to Supreme Court oral arguments. And you can go, if you have an Alexa, you can say, Alexa, play Supreme Court oral arguments, and she will.
Or he. Mine's a he, but.
Never asked the gender of my Alexa. Do you still do that? And more specifically, what did you learn from that impacted your play?
I do still do that. I had never done it before I started researching the play, and then I found this site, oye.org, where you can listen to everything. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, the piece there's a number of sections played in the play, but the one where the justices are clearing their throat, when I went to listen to Griswold, because I was like, well, I should listen to the cases I'm talking about. First of all, it's really great drama. You know, for a playwright and actor, it's like, this is way more interesting than reading, because you can hear all the stuff in their voices, you know?
And
it's
it could be like a court case about water rights between Florida and, that I would have no idea about.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. But when I first heard that case, I was like, wow, this is so good. This is unbelievable. And then I listened to the Jessica Gonzalez case also, which I also found really upsetting and moving and interesting. Just like listening to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if you listen to that case is so emotional during the case, and a lot of the male justices, even the ones who voted the way I would have voted, seem very cut off from their feelings, and I thought that's just really fascinating. I don't think it's because they don't have feelings about it, but like whatever the choice was to like address the legal technicalities of this case, which I understand is their job, instead of like taking in the full situation with their full selves, I just found really painful to listen to and interesting to listen to, and to think about the way law can be such an important and humane force of good, and also the way in which it can divorce us from our feelings and our bodies, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I really find them to be great sources of like learning about human behavior and feelings and ideas and kind of drama. Yeah.
And you also did a lot of reaching out to constitutional scholars. Do you consider yourself one at this
No.
point? Really?
No.
I kind of think she is.
I was very nervous about all that because I was just like, I reached out to people because I was like, I think this is what I hear is going on, but I don't have obviously a law degree. And so it was kind of interesting given the nature of the play that I really did feel a need to reach out often to men and be like, can you explain this to me? Or is this right what I'm thinking? Or is like, I really wanted to make sure I was getting it right or something, which is funny to me now. And but I wanted to like fact check myself. And RBG came to see the play, and the night
Really?
she did, yes. She came to see it, and I found out right before I went on, which was just terrible. I knew she was maybe coming. They sort of floated it, and then there was like a security detail walking through the theater. And anyway, I was onto it, and then someone admitted to me that it was happening. So I went through my script, and I was just like fact checking, like had my phone out and was like the dates of things, and so it was really, really stressful. And then she asked me to send her a script, and I was like, I can't send her a script. I'm sure there's typos in it. I'm notoriously, and my stage manager was like, oh no, Heidi, she's just like, that's a nicety, she's like, send her an autograph script and thank her for coming. And she's not gonna read it. And I was like, right, of course. So I did and thanked her for coming. And then 3 days later, I got a packet in the mail with the Jessica Gonzalez case with a couple of sections marked, and basically 3 notes on my script.
Did you apply those notes?
I did, yeah. 2 of them. 2 of them. One of them, she wanted me to change the phrase would have to might have. And talking about how the Jessica Gonzalez case might have turned out differently if we'd had an equal rights amendment. I said it would have, and she was like, you have to say might have. Which totally makes sense. And then, I don't remember what the other one was. The third one had to do with the equal rights amendment, which she really thought we had to start over completely, as opposed to just getting we're trying to get it ratified right now, like get it through the Senate. Like, but she was like, because the time limit has run out, you've got to just start from the beginning. And so I just ended up putting that into versions of the debate.
I saw an interview you did with Gloria Steinem. You get to meet some cool people now. And she was talking about something I had never heard of, which is the Iroquois Confederacy.
Oh, yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Yes.
And you found out about this from her.
I did, like in the middle of a, yeah. So she had explained, and then I went on to research later that that some of the inspiration for the Constitution had come from the governance of the Iroquois Confederacy, and that Ben Franklin had been in conversation with them, and that.
And can I interrupt? The Iroquois Confederacy was really
Yes.
kind of isolated to New York State.
Yes, it was.
Amongst several tribes.
Yes.
So.
Yes. But yeah, so this system of governance that we, think of as wholly descended from like white European influences, like was apparently, at least through Benjamin Franklin and perhaps other people, influenced by the system of government that these tribes had in place, basically. And they also included women in their in their systems, and apparently like had that conversation with Ben Franklin, I guess.
And they were surprised. They were surprised, right,
Yes.
when they came to meet with Benjamin Franklin. And about what?
About you might have to say it because it's been a little while, and
That there
I
were
did
no
give
women.
birth. Yeah, they were very surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, that no women were being included, or at least in
Yes,
the
they
conversation
brought it up
of the
with
Constitution.
Franklin, that it was like that they didn't quite understand why women were not actively part of the document, or
Yeah,
yeah.
it's fascinating. Okay, I'm going to step away from the play for just a moment and go back in time a little bit. You were part of the Printer's Devils Theater in Seattle, along with Kip Fagan, your husband. And just like Blue Barn when it was young, they're very formative years. And I wonder what you now look back on and realize, oh, I got this out of that, being that young theater maker.
I love that question. First of all, I was telling Houston earlier that like Kip was very inspired by Blue Barn, and so our theater company in Seattle was very much modeled after this theater, and like I think he got the idea and the feeling that he could do something like that based on Blue Barn. So it's very exciting to be back here. So yeah, I would say we did everything. I assume like you all did in the beginning, which is like we were 12 people, and we all made all the sets and all the costumes, and we made all the posters and went out in the middle of the night and stuck them up, glue pasted them all over Seattle, and we wrote grants, and we
Scrub toilets.
So, yes, clean toilets.
I mean, the whole thing, right?
Yeah, struck the sets, all all of it. We had this like scheme where we, to raise money for our theater company, we would collect people's Christmas trees at Christmas and dispose of them. All sorts of like things like that. So I feel like from that, the thing I take the most from it is just like actually a sense of agency of like, I think it's easy to move to New York and feel like, oh, my fate is in everyone else's hands. Like, will I get cast in this play, or will this theater do my play? And like to spend 10 years, which I did, making your own work and putting it out there and deciding that it's important and matters, and doing everything you can to get it in front of people and to get audiences in. And we were really trying to get younger audiences into, makes you feel like your life as an artist is not, just up to other people. Like it's what you decide to put into the world. I feel like that's the biggest thing I took from it, and probably influenced the making of this play. I don't know that I would have made a play like this if I felt like, because no theater, if I told them the idea for this play, would ever want to do this play. I sort of made it happen myself and did it with a very experimental theater downtown. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I was also telling you at dinner that I also performed my first I did a solo play as part of the company, and before the reviews came out and we got sort of publicity about it, I once did it for a family of 4.
I won that debate, though.
You did. You've done it. Yes.
Blue Barn once did a play for 1. And the guy was from out of town just to be here for the Berkshire Hathaway convention.
You do win.
So
You win.
we
You
win
win.
that
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
right?
You
Okay.
totally win.
Okay. If you don't know, Heidi is also writes for television. You've written for Billions, for Nurse Jackie,
Yes.
for Glow, and one that I haven't seen yet, but the title just fascinates me, is I Love Dick.
Yes. Yes.
But I've seen
I
previews.
recommend it.
I've seen previews. It has a great cast: Kevin Bacon, Catherine Hahn.
That's
I mean,
right.
you know.
Griffin Dunn.
Griffin
It's
Dunn,
quite a
so-
cast. Yeah.
So, yeah. But can you talk a little bit about what it's like in a writer's room, how that works? And particularly, I was thinking, when you're writing your own stuff, you kind of know your character's motivations, or at least there's some guidance there from your own
Yes.
head. Here you're writing for people, for characters you may not have invented.
Right.
Plot lines you may not have ever, that you're kind of directed to.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So can you talk a little about what a writer's room is like and how you switch gears to
Yeah.
accomplish what they're asking you to?
I mean, for me, more than other writers, the writer's room was not a huge transition for me because I've spent most of my career also as an actor, and it's a little more akin to being an actor. Like, you are handed a character that someone else has created, and your job is to understand that character as deeply as you can and try to, manifest them into reality. So I feel like when I'm in a writer's room, I use my actor brain a lot, which is these are all the given circumstances I'm given. So if that's the truth, how would this character go forward in the world? And instead of where I'm using my body and my voice and everything to make that happen, I'm coming up with future ideas for them to enact. So I'm writing.
But you also have to stay within their voice too, right? Their cadences.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
their-
But I feel like that's a little akin to being an actor too, right? You're
Sure.
I can't. I have to stay within this thing I've been given, or whatever I can explore. But yeah. So I like it, and I feel like I have some friends who have a harder time and are it's very frustrating to have to write for a character you didn't invent. But for me, it feels very similar to acting.
Interesting. That was not the answer I was expecting. Okay, so I just got a signal that we're down to our 5 here,
All right.
so we can open it up to you all. So I'm going to pick a couple questions here. All right, so this play is clearly a defining moment in your career. I'm sure you agree with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have plans with, this would be the wrong word, but how do you exploit this type of success and move forward from it? I mean exploit in the good sense of the word.
I mean, I guess I let people do it all over the country when I'm not around, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's been really interesting. First of all, it was followed. This thing happened that I thought would be very small that ended up being quite larger than I thought it would. And then the pandemic happened, and then I gave birth to twins. So my whole life feels a little bit I don't know what's happening. Whatever. This is great, I guess. I will say the one thing. The only thing that's actually been tricky for me is that I have gotten lots of opportunities that come my way that have to do with going on political shows or being asked to speak in a kind of political pundit type of way, or giving, somebody, The Nation wanted me to host a podcast, and I was like, that's a great opportunity. And having to really come to terms with what my actual desires are in life and what I am, which is my whole life I've been a theater artist, and that's actually what I am. And I'm not a constitutional scholar, and I'm not a political pundit, and I don't, but it's tempting when people are being come do this thing,
Sure.
to be oh yeah, I'll go on stage and talk about the Constitution, or I'll host a podcast or something. Or they wanted me to go on like Good Morning America when Roe v. Wade happened, and I was just like, I don't. I am politically active, but I also like want to write plays, you know. So like trying to figure that kind of out has been interesting. Yeah.
Did you say one more? One more. Okay.
One more short one.
The director is still directing. I actually, this was a question that I wrote after I saw the show, and I don't know if it got included in the next show.
Yeah.
But Katie, who performs your play, is a new mom of a 2-year-old. Yeah. You're a new mom of 2-year-old twins. So my question was, as a new mom, what hopes and fears do you have for your children's future? And maybe it doesn't have to be an either or.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 amazing daughters. I feel really lucky to have, I'm like an old mom, obviously, but I also feel lucky to have been through what I've been through, and the stuff with my own mom, to feel like I can be a really good mom to them and give them things that my mom didn't have and that she wasn't necessarily able to give me. I feel really excited about that. I feel really scared bringing them up in the environment. Like, I can't believe I'm bringing them up at the moment like Roe v. Wade was overturned. I can't believe I'm bringing them up in this moment when all the CDC research is coming out about teenage girls and how hard things are for them. I feel like sad and scared, and also hopeful that I have resources to give them, and that like so many people around them have resources to give them that will help make them strong and confident and feel like they have agency in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the microphone now to Susan, and if you'd raise your hand, she'll run to you and give you the mic. We'd love for you to ask the mic, on the mic so we can keep it in the recording that we have going on. You good?
Yes. How about you? Good. We didn't even need this.
Didn't even need it.
Maybe on the last question.
Hi. I was just wondering, I know you just recently posted on Instagram about raising funds for the National Network for Abortion Funds.
Yes.
But after the overturning of Roe v. Wade, was there any sense in your mind to change anything or alter anything about this particular show as it was touring, or as you allowed it to be performed in other spaces like the BLUEBARN Theater, to reflect the state of our nation and its current war against women's reproductive freedoms?
That's such a great question. You know, I that was the first question that came up, because I did a benefit in New York, and then I came here and did a benefit to raise money here for, not for abortion funds, but for some political organizations. And so performing it live, I was like, I need to listen to it to see like what needs to be different. And what I found maybe disturbingly was like not a lot needed to change. You know, it was like, oh, I feel like I wrote it and started writing it in 2008, and part of the thing I came to in it was like, oh, we are not as protected as we think, and then like here we are. That's very clear. So I did little tiny edits, and then I sort of left more things open in the debate to like bring in just really specifically what is happening right now. But because a lot of the contest takes place ostensibly in 1989, it sort of didn't need to change. I think it just lands differently now, or hits differently. So I did make some changes, but they're all very subtle. Yeah.
I'm just curious. Tonight they voted to keep. How often does they vote to abolish?
So weirdly, the first 100 performances of this show, they only ever voted to keep, and then sometime around 2019, people started voting to abolish. A lot, and then a lot, and a lot more. And since it's been on tour, more. And since the Dobbs decision came down more. So it's been really interesting. It's definitely been an evolution. And I will say, so I couldn't tell when I was performing because as I debated it more, when I first started, I was like, oh yeah, this is like an exercise. Like, of course we'll keep. And then the more like I argued it, the more I got into the abolish side of things. So at first I was like, maybe I'm just arguing abolish more passionately. But I think that the things in the country have changed and people are more open to the idea now. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I just have to know if you have framed your RBG's notes.
No, but I need to do that. I need to do that probably soon, right?
Right when you get back.
Thank you. Thank you. Where are they?
There's one in front of you, too.
Right there. All right. Oh, excuse me. So in the play, clearly about privacy, you pull out the 14th Amendment from the can, or the Legionnaire does. Had you thought about any of the other amendments and what they mean to you? Or was there any others that spoke to you with big feelings?
Yes, absolutely. I obviously the 19th and many others, but I sort of stumbled upon the 14th. I think when I was looking into abortion, and then I didn't realize until I started researching the domestic violence that these cases had been decided under the 14th, and so again, my question sort of led me, and I was like, oh my God, like everything I'm thinking about is located in this one section of the 14th Amendment. And then that was one of the things I learned later from constitutional scholars. They're like, oh yeah, we teach whole semesters on the 14th Amendment. I was like, I can see why, I guess. So yeah, it sort of, my questions led me to that one.
Heidi, thank you again. And I'd like to just end the evening with this statement, not a question. And I can't attribute it to anybody, but I just think it's fabulous. There is nothing more important to a democracy than a well-informed electorate. And you're doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.